Hello again. When it was announced recently that a new scheme would aim to avoid charging minor offenders like shoplifters and thieves and bringing them to court, but would instead rely upon police cautions, it was not hard to guess what the rationale was for such an initiative. There is, it seems, a backlog of cases pending in the judicial system. This is exactly the same catch-all excuse which is stopping us getting to grips with illegal immigration in this country, the backlog of asylum applications. Then too, the National Health Service is on the brink of collapse due to a backlog of cases and referrals. It seems that the backlog is this year's catchphrase in Britain, and it is routinely trotted out to explain any incompetence or scandal. Children with mental health problems? There's a backlog. Unable to get your passport renewed on time? It's the backlog. Problem getting through to the Inland Revenue? It must be the backlog with which they are currently dealing. The British have always had a weakness for seizing upon one simple reason which explains all the delays and inefficiency. These excuses range from, don't you know there's a war on, to the introduction of decimal currency or strikes or even the weather. With the backlog, though, they have hit upon a winner which is likely to prove timeless. You simply no longer need to scrabble around for other explanations. This one covers it all. Of course, there have always been waiting lists for operations and cases which are waiting to be heard in court and so on. This is simply the nature of a modern civil society. We can't all have our hip surgery tomorrow, any more than we can hear all pending court cases in one morning. There is bound to be a wait before criminals can appear in the dock or people can have their ingrowing toenails dealt with. It's only in the last year or so, though, that this has been advanced as the very reason for hideously long delays. Many of us have noticed that Britain is slowly but surely collapsing into chaos, and the inability to see doctors or get a police officer to come round if our house is burgled is symptomatic of this. Police officers no longer attend ordinary crimes such as vandalism, car theft or housebreaking because they have a backlog of cases to deal with. This universal excuse came into prominence in the aftermath of the COVID business. Supposedly in an effort to stop the spread of the virus, many workers, from civil servants to doctors and even bank staff, began working from home. They liked it so much that they refused to come into work anymore. When you have a telephone appointment with your GP, he is almost certainly sitting at home while talking to you. The same goes for civil servants. It is, of course, human nature and obvious to most of us that we will do less work if we are at home than we would if we were sitting in an office and people would see immediately if we were just staring out the window and daydreaming rather than actually getting on with things. Even now, long after the COVID affair, these people still refuse to go to their place of work. It goes without saying that less work is being done, and so the work piles up and becomes the so-called backlog. There was a time when one could ring one's bank and speak to a member of staff there, actually in the branch that you used. These days, calls are, of course, diverted to India. There was a time, too, when to see the family doctor, you simply went down to his surgery and sat in the waiting room. Imagine that. No backlog in those days stopping you from seeing the doctor. Those were also the days when the murderer would appear for trial at the next quarter sessions or assizes. This meant that there was never more than 3 months between an arrest for a serious crime and the suspect coming for trial. I'm sure that viewers must have noticed these days that people appear for trial a year, 18 months or 2 years after the original offence. It's that backlog again, you see. In this way, a nation which was once noted for its brisk and no-nonsense approach, which got things done, is gradually slipping into the same mindset as some Latin American nations, where everything is mañana and nothing actually gets done in a timely and efficient way.